Now we come to the last talk of this day, for which I would like to invite Professor Panigri, Manas Panigri. He is from KIMS, Hyderabad, and he is presently the president of Endoscopic Society of India. Dr. Manas, please.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh, and I'd like to thank Professor Deva Pujari and Professor Qureshi for doing the collaborative workshop of WFNS Endoscopic Committee with the Endoscopic Society of India. The webinar has been accepted very well with lot of viewers. I was just going through the number of viewers, and the content has been quite exciting. And at the end, my talk is like a summary of what has been done. With all the experts talking on everything which can be done with endoscopy, and all the residents who listen to it, this may jump to endoscope for every case, every intraventricular tumor they see. So I will optimize when to do an endoscopy and when to do microscopy, and what are the advantages and disadvantages taking cases from our experience. I'll be concentrating only on the lateral ventricular tumors, not on third ventricular tumor or posterior third, to make it simple. When we were residents, when we had a tumor in the lateral ventricle, we were taught either do a transcortical or interhemispheric. And as Professor Ashish Pathak and Professor Hemant Bharati also was pointing, that the incidence of seizures was higher in transcortical. That is what we were taught, and that is what was in the literature at that time. And people preferred interhemispheric or transcallosal approach. But then now people prefer endoscopy, which is again a transcortical. So are we in a retrogressive way or a progressive way? So at the means we have reduced the size, but then I don't think we have reduced the damage to the cortex. So we have gone from transcortical to a smaller transcortical, and the incidence of seizures with endoscopy has not been reported. So we have three approaches where the cortex is breached, both in transcortical and endoscopy, and in interhemispheric, there is no cortical breach. Now, which is a better approach when we get a patient in the OPD for a particular tumor, whether it's a transcortical either with microscope, endoscope, or interhemispheric. So for a better approach for a particular tumor is either or decide a transcortical or transcallosal, or we decide how to do it, either transcortical, and what equipment to use, whether a microscope is a better equipment or an endoscope, whether you use an exoscope or an endoscope, which is a better equipment. And all patients do not fit into endoscope. There are many cases which all of us agree that half of them where we need to use microscope. Now this paper came long ago, where they reported, this was in 2006, where they reported the criteria for selection of a tumor biopsy or resection. Though many people tell that 2 centimeter, they have gone till 3 centimeter size where one can do an endoscopic resection. But to do a biopsy, there is no size limit. But for a resection, 2 to 3 centimeter. But more than 3 centimeter, probably microscope is better or an exoscope. An exoscope is just an extension of microscope. So we have to be very clear that transportal endoscopy and microscopy are similar, except for the visualization. Now, this is a review article in 2017 where they reviewed all the transcortical endoscopic approaches for intraventricular lesion, and what they concluded was that smaller tumors and cystic tumors are good for transcortical endoscopy in the hands of all neurosurgeons, not in the hands of experts. Can somebody mute this thing? There are a lot of somebody is driving and his phone is on it. Now this paper came in again 2013, where they analyzed this systematic outcome analysis of the complications of neuroendoscopic resection of intraventricular tumor, and the reported complication is 20% or 20.8%, and the extent of resection was good, like 95% if it's less than 2 centimeter, but when it's more than 2 to 3, the extent of resection reduced to 75%. So it's effective in less than 2 centimeter tumors and cystic tumors. And complications rate were also higher in solid tumors. And 20% complication rate is something which you have to think of. Now, whether the 20% complication rate is higher than the microscopic group. Now, there are few papers on the complication rates of microscopic transcortical approach to intraventricular. The complication rates are almost similar, but then the motor deficit were a little higher and language impairment also was higher. But then in the endoscopy, this was not addressed to. 19% had post-op seizures immediate, but persistent post-op seizure was only 6.8%. And unlike the transcallosal has less. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Manas, we can hear you, but I think please all others go mute, please, during the talk.
Please mute. Dinesh or Satish, can you please mute everybody?
I think Hemant, your mic is picking up a lot of signals. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But in transcallosal, unlike what we believe, the incidence of seizure is similar to transcortical, like 18%. The only difference is there is no long-term seizure, like 6% in a transcortical. So I didn't find a comparison of the complication rate in endoscopic versus microscopic assisted intraventricular tumor, but this was a comparison of endoscopic and microscopic resection of deep-seated intracranial lesion using a portal retractor. And what they reported, the final conclusion was microscope is preferred over endoscope using tubular port retractor. Though all my previous speakers may not agree, but this is what is in the literature. So how do you decide if you get a particular patient of intraventricular tumor to what approach has to be done? It should be decided depending on size. If it's less than 3 centimeter, one can do an endoscopic transcortical. But if it's more than 3 centimeter, one has to decide whether to do a microscopic transcortical or a microscopic transcallosal, depending on the size of tumor. But it's not only the size, but also one has to look at the vascularity of the tumor, the consistency, whether it's cystic or solid, and contents of the tumor also play a role. If it's very hard, again, endoscopy probably is difficult. So what we follow, our protocol is, if you have a tumor which is less than 2 to 3 centimeter, we do an endoscopic. But if it's more than 3, we do a microscopic, either a transcallosal or transcortical, depending on, again, the MRI finding. If there is CSF cleft all around the tumor in the ventricle, then we go for a transcallosal. But if the tumor is adherent to one of the walls, so we don't have a CSF cleft all around, then we do a transcortical, as many times they are attached to the lateral wall of ventricle. And if you do transcallosal, we might leave a tumor or it may not be seen, the attachment to the lateral wall of the ventricle. So we prefer a transcortical in these cases. I'll show an example of each one. Now this case, which this child, a 4-year-old child who presented with raised ICP with multiple spots in all over the body, and this was the scan, which is suggestive of a subependymal giant cell astrocytoma. We discussed a lot on using the syringes, and because it's sharp, and using the silicone tube which is soft. What we do is you just take this is a brain cannula and a glove which is cut, the digit is cut and then used as a distension. So we use this, create the tract, and over this one can railroad either the silicone tube or the syringe, which turns out to be a little less traumatic than the presently described technique. And even if you do not use a syringe or something, because there is a tract, and if you use the irrigation endoscope, the irrigation is open, the water jet itself opens up the tract while putting the endoscope. I couldn't show the video. Next time I can show the video how the water jet creates the tract, what is created. So this was a tumor less than 2 centimeter, and the technique has already been described to identify the pedicle of the tumor, coagulate the pedicle, and then and after coagulation, then detach it, and the tumor is removed as a single piece. Now, this is the second case. This is a 15-year-old male child with headache, vomiting, and drowsiness with one episode of seizure. And this was the scan. And here we find that there is CSF cleft all around. So, and it's more than 3 centimeters. So we did a transcallosal approach. And this is the video, the standard. I don't have to. I do not want to go through the whole video, but the incision, the craniotomy is not so big. It's not 3 to 4 centimeter. It may be 4 to 5 centimeter. And this is what the tumor with the QSAR decompressed and then removed. And it is much clearer than a endoscopic view because it's a three-dimensional 3D orientation we have. And all of us are better with microscope than only working with an endoscope or an exoscope. Now, this is a case 3, which a 12-year-old with headache and blurring of vision, and it's a large tumor. But then here the tumor there's no clear-cut cleavage between the lateral wall of ventricle. And though the septum is pushed to the opposite side, but it was adherent. So here we did a transcallosal, but we had to enlarge the corridor by working on either side of the ACA. Normally in transcallosal, you go through between the ACAs, but here we worked on either side of ACA. This is the ACA work first started in the interhemispheric and then worked lateral to the ACA to have a good access to the lateral part of the tumor. So here working on both sides of ACA so that we have a better total excision, and post-ops we do not have surprises of little bit of tumor left along the lateral wall of the ventricle. Fluorescence can be used for intraventricular tumors. This is not with endoscope, this is with microscope. We can see here that the tumor and the normal tissue can be clearly seen. This is what advantage with the microscope over endoscope. But now endoscopes have come with fluorescence also. Now this is a case where there is no cleft between the lateral ventricle and the tumor. So this is the case where we do a transcortical, not transcallosal. So this is done through again a craniotomy, which means not a 3 centimeter trephine, is a 4 centimeter trephine, but use a standard microscopic technique. We have used a retractor, but one can do with a port also. So we studied in 8 years the number of cases which are done. 198 patients with third and lateral ventricular tumor who underwent surgery in our hospital. Out of that, adults were in 153 and pediatrics were 45. 26% were in the lateral ventricle, 47 in the anterior third, and 26 were in the posterior third ventricle. These are the different pathologies we have operated. But what is the conclusion was, when we had 25% of the cases had an endoscopic approach, 75% of the cases had microscopic approach. Though we think of endoscopic, but still 75% we had to do microscopic approach. And the complication rate or seizure rate was 9% in open microscopic and 7.6 in endoscopic. Hydrocephalus was more in endoscopic group in our series. Intraventricular hemorrhage also was a little higher, though many of them didn't need treat. At least post-op scans for intraventricular hemorrhage. And so the complication rate at the end, the complication rate was in microscopic was a little higher, 6.7% to endoscopic, almost double. But then one has to also understand that larger tumors were operated with microscope and smaller tumors with endoscope. So one cannot tell that endoscopy is better over microscopy because we had a bias in selection of the number of cases. So as such, intraventricular tumors have a higher complication rate, and both with endoscopic and microscopic. But when we select properly, we can reduce the complication rate either when we use endoscope or microscope. So the take-home message is endoscopic excision when it's less than 2 to 3 centimeter size, and microscopic if it's more than 3. If you have CSF cleft all around, one can do a transcallosal. But the absence of CSF cleft all around, Prolivarin needs a transcortical approach through a port, either with a microscope or a exoscope. Thank you for your attention.